Hey guys, back today with day 17. Um, Today is Love Promotes Intimacy. And before I get started reading it, I just like to remind everybody that we were created for love. And so there's the core of that. And these are, I think everybody on the planet would, well, not everybody because nobody agrees with everything, but even if you don't believe in God, people are aware that love is a big deal. We need love for some reason. Now, I think my beliefs are that there's no doubt I was created by a creator who is love, and that's why I have to have it. So that's my framework. But the point is that humans need it desperately. Critically. And so to learn how to be loved and to love in a self sacrificial manner, it is the key to having a fulfilled life. And marriage is that one institution, that one relationship that's that I believe is designed for us to learn to do this. We can all say we are loved by God, but God's invisible. And so it's just so easy, and so many people do. They say they know God, they love God, they have a relationship with God, but where's the proof of that? That's what we're looking for. Is we need proof of that type of a statement today. It's not enough to just make statements. And I think the proof is, even according to Scripture, it says, don't tell people that you, or don't even, God says, don't tell me that you love me when you can't love your brother. And so the proof in the pudding is that, are you loving the people close to you well? And so there's some things you just can't fake. Either you've tapped into true love and you're actually receiving it and therefore you're giving it, or you're not. But so I just say all that to say that this is worth figuring out. This is worth working towards. Your marriage is so very important. And so today, intimacy is one of those big deals for me. I just know how important it is, and um, so I just wanted to say those things. So let's get going here. Proverbs 17:9 says, "He who covers over an offense promotes love, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends." Who are you the closest to in life? With whom do you share your secrets? It may be a good friend you've known since childhood or college. It may be a sibling, parent, or coworker. But nothing rivals the closeness that can be experienced between a husband and wife. Marriage is designed to be the most intimate of all human relationships, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That's why it's so beautiful and why we need it so much. We long for a best friend with whom we can share our hearts, a safe, loyal companion who gets us, understanding who we are, someone who knows our deepest secrets and yet still accepts us in spite of them. Intimacy is described as being fully known and fully loved. But sadly, many marriages lack the intimacy that God desires between a man and his wife, for this great blessing is also the site of its greatest danger. Someone who knows us this intimately can either love us at a depth we've never imagined, or they can wound us in ways we may never recover from. This is both the fire and the fear of marriage. It's why creating a very safe place for one another to open up is fundamental for intimacy to thrive. What are you experiencing the most in your home right now? Are you open books, or more like closed vaults? How much do you two really talk? How much do you trust each other with your secrets? Would your mate say that you make them feel safe or scared? Especially if you've wounded one another in the past, you will tend to be guarded and hide from intimacy. If home is not considered a place of emotional safety, you will both be tempted to seek it somewhere else. Perhaps you might look to another person, initiating a relationship that either flirts with adultery or actually enters in. You may look for a safe escape in work or in outside hobbies, something that shields you from intimacy. But regardless of your situation, love can help you rediscover intimacy with your spouse. There's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. That's 1 John 4:18. Your mate should not feel pressured to be perfect in order to receive your attention and approval. He or she should not walk on eggshells in the very place where they ought to feel the most comfortable in their bare feet. The atmosphere in your marriage should be one of freedom. Like Adam and Eve in the garden, your coexistence at home should only intensify your intimacy. Being naked and not ashamed should always be in the same sentence, right in your marriage, physically and emotionally. Admittedly, this is tender territory. Marriage has unloaded another person's sinfulness and baggage into your life, and yours into theirs. Both of you may feel misunderstood and unloved, which is the opposite of intimacy. But today begins an opportunity to wrap your mate's private information in the protective embrace of your love and recommit to being the one who can best help him or her deal with it. Some secrets may need correcting. Therefore, you can be an agent of compassion and healing, not by lecturing or criticizing, but by listening in love and then gently speaking truth when they feel safe enough to receive it from you. Some secrets just need accepting. They're part of this person's makeup and history. And though unpleasant, these issues always require a gentle touch. In either case, you alone wield the power either to reject your spouse because of what you know, or to welcome them in, warts and all. They will either know they're in a refuge of safety where they're free to make mistakes, or they will recoil into themselves and be lost to you, perhaps forever. Loving them well should be your life's work. Consider it this way: no one knows you more intimately than God, the one who made you. The writer of Psalm 139 was right when he prayed, "You know when I sit down, when I rise up. You understand my thoughts from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down, and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there's a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all." And yet God, who knows every secret about us, loves us at a depth we cannot begin to fathom. How much more should we, as imperfect people, reach out to our spouse in grace, accepting them for what they are and assuring them their friendship and secrets are safe with us? This may be an area where you failed in the past. If so, don't expect your mate to immediately give you wide open access to their heart. You must begin to rebuild trust slowly, to stop avoiding them and start talking, to listen compassionately, accept them more genuinely, and then love them more deeply. Jesus himself is described as one who doesn't barge into people's lives, but who stands at the door and knocks. He said, "If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and will dine with him, and he with me." The reality of intimacy always takes time to develop, especially after being compromised. But it's worth the endless treasures found beneath its guarded lock. Your loving commitment to reestablishing it may be the key to opening it for anyone willing to take the dare. A couple thoughts here. Intimacy, one of the things I've heard through the years, you've probably heard it, but if not, is "into me you see." And there are parts of the human life that we just crave to truly be seen. That phrase, "I see you." It's not physically "I see you." Obviously, we can do that. I'm talking about I see what's in you. I see your heart. I see the real you. I see something beautiful. And we just want to be seen and known and then loved, because we are messed up. All of us are broken, and we have our own story. We've been wounded. It talked about baggage, and we do. We bring baggage into the marriage. We go through the whole courting stage or dating phase, putting the best foot forward, every time we can. And it really is only when the commitment of marriage has taken place and you step into that you start letting it all hang out. Or you just can't hide anymore. They start seeing what's really in there. And so everybody wants to have their heart open and let that and be as real as they are behind closed doors and be loved anyway. Everybody does. And so marriage is that place where we can both together, we can come before God and say, look, I am broken and screwed up and messed up. I got all this baggage because this baggage occurred in my life up to this point. All the wounds, all the bruises, all the pain, all the things that have happened to me up to this point that I didn't understand and I still am working through. Like we accumulate baggage through the years because things happen to us that are painful and we don't understand them and we don't know how to interpret them in the moment. And so we just stuff them, and we actually stuff a wrong interpretation of what happened because we just don't know. And because we don't know what to do with it, we just try to stuff it down. Let's not try to figure that out. Well, those things have to be dealt with, and you need someone else to help you with it. You need to be courageous enough to, first of all, open your heart up to God. But again, that can be easy because God's invisible and we believe He knows everything anyway. So that's easy for me to be real with God. It isn't so easy for me to be real with another human. But that has to take place. Marriage is supposed to be that one relationship in which you can begin to unpack your baggage and turn it into luggage. See, because you've been wounded in areas in which you're supposed to shine. God predestined you to shine in certain areas, in certain ways. And I believe we have a real enemy who's actively at work to kill, steal, and destroy. And he's not stupid either. He knows. He knows where to wound. And he's wounded you appropriately so that you'll never go there. And so marriage is supposed to be that relationship in which here's one person that I can trust, that I can get into a relationship of true intimacy and healing with, in which they can see all this and that they'll work with me. I heard a story about it's very telling, but it's a story about two hunters, and they're out in the woods hunting, and so they got their scopes and they're aimed at a deer. One problem: one is on this side of the deer, the other is completely opposite on the other side of the deer, and they're both shooting at that same deer. Now that, to me, that's why I don't hunt, because I think about stuff like that happening. However, what happens is one of the guys shoots the deer, the other guy shoots the other hunter. Now, the point of that story is that's how most marriages play out. We have a problem because in marriage, my problem is your problem and your problem is my problem. It's our problem. But instead of lining up together and aiming at the problem, we get opposite one another and fire away. And so what happens in marriage is you may hit the target, or half the time you're just going to hit the other guy. You're just going to hit your other half. You're going to be hurting yourself trying to kill a problem. And so the point in marriage is that intimacy allows you, that hunter, let's use that metaphor, that hunter to come around and, hey, let's be on the same team here. We both want to kill this deer, but let's make sure we're not killing each other in the process, okay? Let's shoot the deer together. So in a marriage, you want to get on the same page and say, look, my problem's your problem's my problem. God brought us together so that we could together kill the problem, not the person. And so it's just a trick of evil to get people to fire at one another. But that's what marriages have turned into these days. That's why there's so much divorce. We just fire away. We don't know how to love. I think mainly because we're not loved. We don't know what love is. And so we don't have it to give. So that's my encouragement today. You know what the Bible says, what God has put asunder, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. Now, what does that mean? It means that God has brought you together with a person for a reason. Because the gift mix between the two of you, if you can work through, navigate the territory of the soul, if you guys actually come together and become one, the team there, what he's the birth right here and the birth right here coming together is going to complement in such a way, man, it's going to be powerful. And God puts you together, and see what happens is we forget. We get convinced that I've just missed it. I married the wrong person, or for whatever reason. It's hard for one thing. It's just hard. Marriage is not easy. It's difficult to work through your own self-centeredness and all the stuff that comes up, and working through your own baggage, and instead of running to some corner in fear and isolating and shutting your soul off to the other person, you're courageous enough to get all this stuff out in the light and work together. So for whatever reason, I know, just because it's so difficult, we decide that, we're not supposed to be together. I think we'd be better off apart. And so what we do is we forget that God's the one that put us together. And when we forget, in other words, when we don't remember, we dismember, which means we tear apart. And when we don't understand that marriages is not for happiness, it's for holiness. See, that's what that means, is that we're supposed to learn how to love. And that doesn't come easy peasy. There's a lot of things to work through. There's a lot of junk in me to get out on the table, so we can kind of work through all this mess, so I can move forthrightly into truth and make this work so that it can be as beautiful as it's meant to be. So all the treasures can come out of each one of us, and our family, our children, everybody benefits as we find that spot, man, that good stuff there. So intimacy is a key. Into me you see. So first is we got to have intimacy with God. Just let him in. But you've got to have intimacy with another human being. See, he's called us into relationship, deep relationship, community. And marriage is at the absolute apex of that. There's not supposed to be a closer relationship. So here's the love dare today. Begin building emotional intimacy with your mate. Determine today to guard your mate's secrets, unless they are dangerous to them or to you. And pray for them. Talk with your spouse and listen with acceptance, opening up to them as well. Make them feel safe. Man, if you could just pull that off in your marriage, pray, ask the Lord to do it for you, help you do it. He wants it more than you, because he knows what can come out of it on the other end. He knows what can be, because he put you together with this person so that it could be. But we've got to trust him to get there. It's no easy road to hoe, but it's worth it. So be encouraged today. Bless you guys. Have intimacy with God and others, especially your husband or wife, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.